Hello, I'm Susan Rogers, Community Liaison with Certified Elder Law Attorney John McNair with McNair Dallas Law. Every week, John gets calls from families facing sticker shock after discovering that assisted living or memory care or nursing home care can cost $3,000 to $5,000 or more a month. Often they're experiencing a medical crisis and they need help qualifying their loved one for VA pension or nursing home Medicaid to help them pay for long-term care. If you find yourself in this situation, this short video will help you prepare to meet with an elder law attorney. John and I created this video series called Don't Put the Cart Before the Horse to share resources and tips which will help families determine the right level of care and to find the best care setting. In our analogy, we need the horse, which is the care setting, to drive the cart, the legal planning, not the other way around. Let me take a moment to introduce John McNair. John has practiced elder law and estate planning for over 35 years here in Dallas, Texas. He earned the National Elder Law Foundation's Certified Elder Law Attorney designation in 2017. You can learn more about John at our website, which is mcnair-dallaslaw.com. John, what is a certified elder law attorney, and when should somebody look for an attorney with that designation?
So the primary professional association for elder law attorneys in the United States is the National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys. So they created the National Elder Law Foundation. And the National Elder Law Foundation created a process whereby elder law attorneys throughout the United States can become certified elder law attorneys. Elder law attorneys help you do things like avoid guardianships, plan for long-term care, for example, using Medicaid and VA benefits. They have a lot of knowledge about Social Security rules regarding special needs trust. Those are the kind of things that an elder law attorney needs to know.
I can see why it would take a lot of study and a lot of rigor in order to earn that certification. So when clients come to visit with you, why is it important that they've done some preparation before meeting with you?
So it's really important for an elder law attorney to be able to plan for you or for your family member to understand the situation. To understand the situation, there's usually several components. There's the family, and do you have existing documents that we may or may not be able to change? If you do, are they adequate, and can we change them? If we can't, can we work around that problem? And what's the financial situation? That is incredibly important because the programs that we are working with are all means tested. That means the government is looking for somebody that meets certain criteria for assets and certain criteria for income. And we can't help you if we don't know about those issues. Also, things like gifts. If you made gifts in prior years, both of the programs that we've talked about, VA and Medicaid programs, penalize prior gifts within a certain period of time of the application. So it is very useful for us to know about all of that. And if the client can help us by preparing to provide some of that information, that will make it much easier for us to have a productive meeting.
That's great. You've mentioned some of the documents. Could you give us a little bit more detail about what clients should put their fingers on, what they need to bring with them?
You want to know about, if it's you or your family member, is there a will? So for example, sometimes we do planning for an incapacitated person. We are doing stuff with their assets, but we absolutely don't want to do stuff with their assets that contradicts their estate plan. So If I have their existing will, I know what their estate plan is, and I'm not going to change that. But we need to know what it is, so if we can have a copy, that's good. Now, if it's a couple that's just coming in for updating their documents, and we may not even need to worry about the old will because it's 25 years old, we may not need to see that. So it depends on the circumstances, whether they actually need to bring it or not, or whether it's going to be a relevant matter. But knowing that you have it and have it at your fingertips in case you need it is useful. Trust. A lot of people create revocable living trust to do their estate planning, and I use them all the time. Especially if they're funded, that means that's our estate plan. That's what we're working with, and we need to decide, are we going to revise that? Can we revise that? Older powers of attorney won't even give us the authority to do that. So it depends on the circumstances. Does it own anything? For example, if it owns a residence here in Texas, that means the residence is not an exempt asset for Medicaid purposes. I'd like to know that. I'd like to know if it has your residence in there. And if we're doing Medicaid planning, one of the things we're going to do is deed it back out of that trust. Powers of attorney are really important, particularly if we have somebody that's suffering from dementia and they can't sign any new documents. I really need to know what the power of attorney is that they've done in the past. What powers does it give to that agent? It could be difficult if we have an older power of attorney with limited authority. It might be easier with some of the newer Texas powers of attorney.
And so people may come to you and have all of the above or none of the above or some mixture of the two.
That's right.
We hear a lot from clients who've moved to Texas from other states. What do you tell them about the documents and the plans that they may have created before they moved to our great state?
Well, there's things that will be helpful to change, and then there's some things that are just absolutely necessary. For example, it would be nice to change your revocable living trust to say that it's governed under the laws of the state of Texas rather than, I don't know, the laws of the state of Oklahoma, because you're not a resident of the state of Oklahoma anymore. On the other hand, there are things that are dramatically different between states. For example, Texas has something called independent administration. Independent administration means that you can do a probate basically free of court supervision. There's minimal court supervision. But in order to get to independent administration, you have to have the magic words in the will that creates independent administration. There's a certain phrase that needs to be in that will, and wills drafted in other states probably are not going to have that magic language because they don't need it in that state. So your wills probably need to be updated for sure, if nothing else.
What about financial documents? What should people have on hand or bring with them as they come to meet with you?
Right. So I don't want to make this an intimidating process for clients. I don't want them to think that this is an overwhelming task to get ready for us. I don't want them to think that this is like an IRS audit where every scrap of paper about their finances has to be provided or there's trouble. That's not it at all. In my process, I send out a client information sheet to someone to fill out in advance of our initial meeting. And in that, I give them an opportunity to give me at a 10,000-foot level an overview of their assets, their estate, as it were. What is their income? What are the sources of their income? Do they have Social Security? Do they have private pension? Do they have teacher retirement? If they have those documents available that are mentioned on our slide, bank statements, investment accounts, deed, Social Security statements, and pension information, that can help them gather this information if they don't know it already. But I don't know that they necessarily need to bring any of those documents to my initial meeting. It is quite possible that we will need all of those later in the process, but not for the initial meeting.
Are there other types of information that clients should gather before their initial consultation?
Again, there are other assets. You see life insurance on the slide. People don't think about that, but the cash value in your life insurance policies can be a countable resource for Medicaid, so we need to know about that. If you have a long-term care policy, we certainly need to know about that. You may not need to qualify for Medicaid or VA benefits, or it may be a very limited long-term care policy. There's some that don't have a very high daily rate coverage, or they're only for a very short period of time, like 2 or 3 years. Do we need to plan for when that long-term care policy will go away? Knowing about their Medicare supplemental policies is useful because we need to provide that information on a Medicaid application, because when you qualify for Medicaid, your income goes to the nursing home, but you can deduct your premiums for your supplemental policies. So we need to know about that. Again, you don't necessarily have to have that stuff for the initial meeting, but be aware that it may come up as an issue later on as we start to apply.
John, thank you so much for sharing all this information. In our Don't Put the Cart Before the Horse video series, we've covered resources that can help determine the care needs of your loved one, including working with aging life care managers. Then we provided tips for finding the best care setting, including working with placement and referral agents. Now that people know what documents and paperwork to start gathering, John, how can people get in touch with you?
So everyone, I hope you have enjoyed this series of videos. We really want to help you find the right care for your family member, because once we know what that care setting is, then we can do our elder law work, because we know what options are available to us. Not all options are available in every care setting. And once we know the care setting, it all falls into place. So thank you again. If you have any questions, feel free to go to our website and book a call. And you can find our phone number on the website as well. And please call me if you'd rather do that. Thank you.